Field shot, loops it down there, and wide open. Then the ball is knocked loose. The catch is made, and then the ball is knocked out of his hand.
From Sachin Tendulkar to Virat Kohli.
You are lifting weights?
Correct. Does not look like it.
Oh, the ball is free. Scooped up by Stroud. Circles, throws, complete on a busted play. Hutchinson.
Yeah, he was right here.
I love this shit. I'm gonna smile all day. Hey, cause it's fun when I whoop a man's ass.
Welcome back to the Bolts podcast. My name is Nick Cates. My pronouns, they are he and him, and it is a beautiful evening here in Bel Air in the tunnel 3,000 feet below Fred Rosen's house, if you were listening last week. It is a beautiful evening, even deep down here in the confines of the tunnel. The Chargers are in first place, where they belong at the top of the AFC West, ahead, of course, of the Broncos, Raiders, and the Chiefs, who have fallen again this week to the Philadelphia Eagles to fall to 0-2 and 2 games back of the Chargers in the AFC West. So let's get to all of the awesome highlights from this week. This was a 22-9 win over the hated rival Las Vegas Raiders. Should be Oakland Raiders. Stadium behind me. And I think we should start with the very first play. In fact, the very first play from scrimmage. We've had actually a little bit of a theme this year in Chargers games, taking a page out of the book of NBA basketball great Michael Jordan, in that we've had a couple of players who have had flu games. Incredibly, it's been 2 games in a row. Last week, it was Mekhi Becton, who had a stomach bug and put up I believe it was the best offensive line grade of his career, according to PFF, of any game, any time in his career. This week, it was Daiyan Henley's turn to get sick, and he showed his illness, I guess, maybe not in the medical sense, but in the awesomeness sense, on the very first play from scrimmage, intercepting a pass from Geno Smith and setting up a Chargers field goal immediately. This was just the beginning for Daiyan as he dominated the Raiders offense. He had 10 tackles, 2 of them for loss. He had a sack, 2 passes defense, and of course the interception, first play of the game. Probably the player of the game from the defense, and that was a tough title to gain because we had great performances from all over the defense. Another one, Tarheeb still didn't have the flu, but Tarheeb did have 9 tackles and 2 passes defense. He was one of 7 players with 2 passes defense, and he made some really key tackles, especially on Ashton Genty, who we'll get to in a moment. Derwin James, also, we love Derwin. He showed his leadership role on the defense with 7 tackles, and he forced a key interception at the end for Dante Jackson to keep the Raiders off the board when they were driving deep in Chargers territory. So again, another really great game for Derwin leading the Chargers defense. And I expected them to have him deployed a lot against Brock Bowers. I haven't had a chance to go back and look at the tape of the game yet, but I didn't even see him doing that much. They had Derwin all over the field. They didn't even seem all that worried about Brock Bowers. And Brock Bowers only had 5 catches for 38 yards. So they didn't have much to worry about in that game. Derwin, amazing work. There was also some really, really great work from the defensive line on the pass rush. We had the sack for Daiyan, as I mentioned earlier, but also Khalil Mack had a sack. And Jamari Caldwell, who I talked a lot about in some previous episodes, and especially in the preseason. He's our 3rd-round pick defensive tackle. He had his first career NFL sack in this game as well. Unfortunately, Khalil Mack also went down in this game not long after he had his big sack. He always eats against his old team, the Raiders, but Unfortunately, last night he got knocked out. We don't know yet at time of recording what the prognosis is. He's getting tests, I believe, tomorrow, and we will hear about that, and we will know more then. So hopefully he will be able to be back. He suffered a nasty-looking elbow injury, but if it's just a simple dislocation and he doesn't need surgery, he shouldn't be out for too long, and we should have him back. And as for the Raiders offense, we should start with their number 6 overall pick, Ashton Jeanty. He struggled again. He only had 2 yards per carry against the Patriots last week. This week, not much better. Just under 4 yards per carry for him today, and he had 11 carries for only 43 yards, no touchdowns. Raiders didn't get in the end zone all day. So, really good job by the Chargers of tackling him. He obviously showed flashes of why he was picked number 6 overall. He does not look easy to tackle at all, and he just ran over Alohi Gilman at one point in the first quarter. So he definitely looks like he's going to be a pretty great player, but Raiders were not able to get it going for him. And there was also some really great work from our defensive line and linebackers. And as I mentioned, Tarheeb Still in getting him on the ground. Raiders quarterback Geno Smith, after setting the team record for most passing yards in a debut, did not have nearly as good of a game. 24 for 43 for 180 yards, no touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Those were Daion's interception on the first play, Dante Jackson's interception, which Derwin set up that I talked about earlier, and Tony Jefferson. Awesome. Tony Jefferson got an awesome pick playing deep center field for the Chargers this week. We were worried about Tony Jefferson because he got cut from the roster. We weren't sure whether or not he was going to be on the Chargers this year. Every other team had a chance to sign him, but they didn't do it. We brought him back on the practice squad, and Tony Jefferson paying dividends again. Played great for us last year. Playing great for us again this year. So, awesome stuff. And the defense did a really, really good job as well of keeping the Raiders offense from getting big explosive plays. They didn't get in the end zone, but they also took a really, really long time getting across the field. On their 3 scoring drives, the first one was 10 plays, 42 yards for a field goal. The second was 11 plays for 43 yards and a field goal. And the last one, the big long one between the third and fourth quarters, took 11 minutes. That one was 19 plays for 62 yards and a field goal. So, Chargers doing a really good job, not even bending very fast, forcing the Raiders to fight for every single yard. This is really good stuff, and it's really, really good momentum for this defense to be bringing into next week against the Broncos, which is an offense that has been very up and down over the first 2 weeks and is coming off a loss. So, moving over to the offense, the 2 big standout performers for me were Justin Herbert and Quentin Johnston. Again, building on his big first game in Brazil, Q had another big one against the Raiders. He had 3 catches for 71 yards and a touchdown, including a massive bomb. Absolutely cooked the entire Raiders secondary, and I mean the entire Raiders secondary. They only rushed 3 on this play. I'm really excited to dig deep into the film. I posted a little something about this when it happened on social media, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, at Bolts Cricket Podcast. Follow us. That sort of showed me kind of celebrating this, but I'm really excited to get into the film on this one because Q managed to unlock a secondary, dropping 8 guys into coverage. Amazing, amazing stuff. Just completely ran in behind the defense. No chance. Q looks like a different receiver this year. That said, it was not just Q performing, and really the love was being spread all around our receiving core. Everybody is playing really, really good football. Everybody is catching the ball. It's great to see. Keenan Allen had 5 catches for 61 yards and a touchdown. Lad McConkey also had 5 catches for 48 yards. So everything's being spread around. Trey Harris had 2 catches. He had 34 yards. So building 1 catch in the first game, 2 catches in the second game for Trey Harris. So this is huge. All of our receivers are playing really, really well at a really, really high level, and that's helping out Justin, who had another massive game. Justin Herbert, 19 of 27 for 242 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no interceptions on the day. Another great, great day from Justin Herbert. They leaned on him a lot, but really getting the job done again, looking like a superstar quarterback, top-tier quarterback in the NFL. I think it's only week 2, but I think he could be putting together an MVP case here. So keep watching him. If he keeps putting up these big numbers every single week, he looks like the quarterback we always knew was there. So another amazing performance from Justin this week against the Raiders, and hopefully he can keep the momentum going because he has a really, really good secondary and defensive line he's going up against next week in the Broncos. The one issue for the offense, again, this week was the running game. The Raiders do have a pretty good defensive line and linebacking core, so I'll give the offensive line more patience, especially as well as they pass protected as much time as Justin had. But we need to be seeing a little bit better of a running game. I think if we can unlock that, things are just going to get that much better for the Chargers offense and that much easier. Not that it hasn't been really easy and really impressive so far. I don't want to downplay the success that's already happened, but I think that we saw some flashes from Omarion. He broke loose for a 15-yard run at one point, and I think that as we continue to get the run game going, we're just going to see more from this offense. I don't think any of these are problems that are unfixable. I want to go back to the tape. Obviously, we talked last week about Scott Matlock and how I wish we'd kept Steve-O, but I'm going to be doing some film analysis on social media, as previously mentioned, at Bolts Cricket Podcast, wherever you get your socials medias, and we will get to the bottom of that. I think it's improvable. It certainly doesn't look as hopeless as it did for long stretches last year where we were just trying the same old inside runs, and I really, really like our 2 running backs this year. I think it's a much stronger core of running backs than we had last year. So I believe in the running game, and I think it's going to get better, but we just need to have a little patience to let it develop. And the passing game is obviously earning all the patience it could need because the passing game has not had any problems over the first 2 weeks. Couple of low points, they weren't that big, and the defense ended up largely canceling them out. There was a botched end around on 4th down. The handoff between Justin Herbert and Darius Davis just didn't go quite right, and unfortunately, Chargers turned the ball over on downs late in the game, but defense came up big. And then there was it was kind of a botched handoff, kind of a fumble, kind of Max Crosby just came screaming off the edge, and Omarion didn't quite get the transfer from Justin, and that was lost. So another small rookie mistake from Omarion Hampton, but again, I think that the positives that we've seen with him as he continues to get more experience and the running game continues to get better. I'm still very excited for Omarion Hampton, even if the stats haven't been super eye-popping through the first 2 weeks. Alrighty, and for now, I think that is all of the football. I wanted to just round this game up for all of you and talk about some of the high points. Again, many of the same things we saw in Brazil against the Chiefs. I think the Chargers defense especially did a really good job of dominating the game. Would have liked to have seen the offense put up a couple of more points late in the game, but we're coming out with more points than the other team. I can't really complain that much. And I think that if this team continues to build on what we've seen in the first 2 weeks, we could see some pretty high heights from the Chargers this year. So, on to a couple of items from cricket.
Go, Chargers, go! Chargers, go! Go, go, go!
All right, to the cricket, and the big headline tournament right now is the Asia Cup. We have 8 teams in this one. We have 5 real cricketing nations, 2 Gulf oil states, and Hong Kong. So it's kind of an interesting blend of talent. We've had some really, really lopsided results. India and Pakistan each picked a Gulf oil state to smack the shit out of, which is always great. We always love to watch Gulf oil states lose. However, it is in Group B where we have a little bit of a log jam. We have Afghanistan, Sri Lanka, and Bangladesh all fighting for 2 spots at the top, with Hong Kong pretty solidly entrenched at the bottom, somewhat unsurprisingly. Likely the only interesting game left in the group stage is Afghanistan versus Sri Lanka, which will decide which 2 teams come out of that group. So that'll be exciting to see. I'm not sure which one it'll be. Afghanistan have a good chance to go through. They have a higher net run rate, but they do need to beat Sri Lanka as they lost to Bangladesh. So they need to win to go through. Lastly, there are reports that the Pakistan Cricket Board is currently taking a decision on whether or not to withdraw from the tournament. This is the result of some controversial things that happened after the India versus Pakistan match, which ended with an Indian victory. I am not going to get into this because there's a lot of political underpinnings. When Ariane's back on the podcast, we can talk more about this, but they are considering dropping out of the tournament, so I wanted to note that. And we'll be back to update you more during the Super Fours and lead up to the final. And finally, we move to the CPL, the Caribbean Premier League, to check back in on those Antigua and Barbuda Falcons, who were last seen conducting an experiment on how long you can stay at the top of the table while being at the bottom of the table in net run rate. And I am pleased / shocked / disappointed to tell you that they actually managed to make the playoffs with the worst net run rate in the league. They still finished 4th, and they made it to the eliminator, where they were somewhat predictably eliminated by the Trinbago Knight Riders, who will be going on to qualifier 2. So, an end to certainly an interesting experiment for the Antigua and Barbuda Falcons. I'll be curious as to when we'll see this sort of thing again in a franchise T20 tournament, but it was certainly interesting while it lasted. They're breaking some new ground, and yeah, so congrats to the ABF on doing something new. Next matchup is the St. Lucia Kings, my St. Lucia Kings. Actually, they got some pretty Chargers colors, those St. Lucia Kings, going up against the Guyana Amazon Warriors in qualifier 1. That is tomorrow as of date of recording. So we will be talking about that on the next podcast. I'm curious to see what happens to the Trinbago Knight Riders, and disappointed that the LA Knight Riders couldn't also make playoffs or win playoff games or win any games. That would be cool if the LA Knight Riders could win any games. But you know who can win games? Not just any games, but many games. Is next week's guest, Mr. Shohei Ohtani, who will be joining us on this podcast to diagnose what he thinks is wrong with the Chargers' run game. So, for Ariane Ori, Daiyan Henley, and everyone else associated with the NFL's 407-7th team, my name is Nick Cates, and I'm saying, well,
I've got so much to say and so little time to say it. Great job, everybody. Who's got it better than us? Nobody!